Hi, my name is Ania, and I'm here to introduce the It's Not Your Fault project. This project is specifically aimed at victims of sexual abuse and domestic assault. It is meant also to be an outlet for people who have been the victims of either of these situations. It came about thanks to a wonderful blog run by Dr. P.Z. Myers, known as Pharyngula, in which he brought to his readers' attention a story of what's going on in Cleveland, Texas. An 11-year-old girl was sexually assaulted by 18 young men, and the community has decided to blame her. So much so that they're even raising money for the defense of the rapist. In other words, they're trying to let these men get away with rape. They are blaming the victim. They're saying that she led them on, that she lied about her age, or any other completely unreasonable excuse they can come up with. Rape is never the victim's fault. It is always the fault of the people who committed it. There's a really scary thing about rape that goes beyond the actual act itself. There is an entire stigma surrounding rape that has more to do with the victim than it does with the person who committed the crime. Victims are often told that they could have avoided it, that they shouldn't have dressed provocatively, that they should have done something to prevent themselves from being in that situation, and that attitude is wrong. The idea that rape is something that takes place in some dark alley by somebody you don't know is wrong. 95% of sexual assaults happen with somebody you know. That is to say, the rapist is somebody the victim knows and knows well. In fact, the number one place where sexual assaults happen are inside the victim's own home, and the number two place is in the rapist's home. This means that it's somebody that the victim knows well enough to trust being in their home or having them in their own home. That's a far cry from a dark alley with some random stranger. And yet, over and over again, the advice given to women everywhere is to not walk down dark streets alone, not to go to clubs alone, to avoid being in situations where she's alone and might fall prey to some degenerate character. They are told not to dress provocatively or in any way that might incite the lust of these potential criminals. This is wrong. The victim shouldn't bear the responsibility of preventing crime. Crime should be prevented at its source, which is the criminal. We are a community of people who have suffered sexual assault and want to attack the attitudes in the community that allow it to happen and that keep us silent. One of the biggest tragedies of sexual assault is the shame that comes afterwards when our society tells us over and over again that we are somehow to blame. That's not the case. The only people who should bear any shame or blame for what happened are the people who did this. And we're not staying silent anymore. We are speaking out. We are going to tell our stories because we have nothing to be ashamed of. What happened to us was something terrible, something that should never happen, and we should not have to stay down and stay ashamed because we have nothing to be ashamed of. And anyone who says differently is wrong. What happened to me when I was 18 was not my fault. What happened to many of my friends is not their fault. What happens to thousands of women, millions of women over the world is not their fault. And the society that's being created that says otherwise is letting this happen. I will not stay silent. My sisters will not stay silent. My brothers will not stay silent. Men and women can be victims alike. This is not simply something that affects women only. It affects men, children, women, everyone of all ages. The It's Not Your Fault project is being created in the hopes that we can reach at least one victim out there and convince them that they have nothing to be ashamed of. That what happened to them was not their fault and there was nothing they could have done to prevent it. That it was just something bad that happened and that somebody should be punished for, but that person is not them. The person who should be punished is the person who committed the crime. And it is a crime in every situation. Any man or woman who touches or does anything to somebody else without their permission or against their will is committing a crime. Part of this project cannot be done through video. For too long now, victims like me have been told that talking about our stories is something we shouldn't do because we are somehow harming society by doing so, because I should be ashamed of what happened to me, because other people don't want to hear it because it's too painful. It is only by hearing it and realizing how painful it is that we are finally going to stand up and do something about it. I invite anyone who has suffered any form, whether something that you're not even sure whether or not it was, to something that you're absolutely sure it was, I want you to participate. I want you to speak out and tell your story so that people out there can find out just how many of us it actually affects. I invite you to make a video like I did. I invite you to write a letter, which we will post on a blog called the It's Not Your Fault Project.wordpress.com. If you're not ready to make a video, or if you're uncomfortable writing a letter, write out your story. You can send it to us anonymously. Or be creative. Write a poem. Draw a picture. Write a song. Do anything that helps you express what happened to you and to express to other victims out there that what happens to them is not their fault. I was sexually assaulted by a female doctor when I was 18, in the doctor's office. I am not alone. What happened to me was not my fault. You are not alone. What happened to you is not your fault. And it's time for us to speak out.